Great. Okay, call the meeting to order. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Some of you may know Chris Smith is out of town on business, so this is George Harrison is acting as vice chairman. The minutes were sent around by email to the commission. I know probably, Jeff, you didn't see it, but does anyone else have questions or comments on the minutes from May's meeting? I looked them over. They seemed okay. So can we have a motion to approve the minutes from May?
I'll make a motion to approve the May minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded. So
Doug made it, and who seconded it?
Doug seconded, actually. I
Bill
think
made the motion.
Bill Perugini made the motion. All in favor, aye?
No, I think it was Dave that made the motion.
Dave Henry?
Yeah, it was actually me on the phone. Thanks, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So tonight, when we have a vote, if there are any votes, I mean, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote just to keep it straight, since Betty is no longer with us and we're trying to keep things straight in her absence.
Right.
So the minutes are approved. I have a chairman's report from Christopher that I'm going to read or try to read here. On Thursday, June 12th at 9:30 a.m., a safety drill was conducted for the Southport Harbor. It is performed annually and coordinated by Travis Herman and the Pequot Yacht Club. Participants included Fairfield Harbor Master, Fairfield Police, Fairfield Fire, AMR Ambulance, Pequot Yacht staff, and junior sailing instructors. Representatives from the Gowrie Insurance Group, Junior Sailing Association of Long Island Sound, and our chairman observed from the Pequot Yacht Club launch, the Patrick Carroll, driven by Travis Herman. The drill narrative called for Pequot Yacht Club instructor boats towing Optimist training sailboats, which are training sailboats for younger children, to be positioned just outside the harbor at the PYC A mark. One of the Optimists sailed away from the others, and an instructor noticed a test subject lying in the boat with a head injury and unconscious. The instructor called 911. A police boat was dispatched from Penfield Marina, and a fire department rescue boat was sent from Yee Yacht Yard. The police boat arrived on scene first and brought the test subject on board their boat and delivered it to Yee Yacht Yard, where the ambulance waited. Throughout, there was an extensive coordination using VHF and cell phones with all the participants on land and on water. Afterwards, a post-drill debrief was held at Pequot Yacht Club with all in attendance, about 30 people. The drill was successful in practicing a complicated series of maneuvers and coordinating numerous groups with varying sailing levels of sailing training. Harbor Master, have any comments on that?
I will in my report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, Theola Haynes, the Port Authority of Connecticut Finance Director, Jeff Stedman and I, meaning Chris, exchanged emails and phone calls about the refund of the unused portion of the SHIP grant for the lower wharf dredging and boat launch. She emphasized the Port Authority's desire to receive the funds before the end of their fiscal year, June 2025. Mr. Stedman, who will be reporting out on the matter later in the meeting, has been in touch with the Town of Fairfield Finance Department, and we expect to learn the status by the time of this meeting. It is of particular importance to the HMC to have this refund made now to preserve our ability to participate in any future SHIP funding. And that's all I have for the harbor, or for the Chairman's report. Mr. Harbor Master.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Despite the cold, rainy weather in the last month, it's been quite busy. Since the last meeting, I went to the opening day at Pequot Yacht Club, which is a very nice ceremony, traditional start of the boating season. In one day, we removed several logs from the channel. There was an extremely large log that got stuck on the dam, on the western side of the dam, so I had Public Works send their equipment to pull that off.
Tide Mill Dam?
Tide Mill Dam, yeah, Tide Mill Dam. So Public Works was able to get that from shore with one of their crane arms before it went anywhere. We had Flare Day, which was a fun event. We were able to get it in despite the rain, which came after. It was foggy out, but very successful. Many hundreds of flares were shot by people that came. Old flares are still coming. I'm getting people reaching out to me from all over, looking to drop off flares. And we train some folks that never, I kind of insist when they bring them that they try shooting if they've never had. Most people say, no, I'm just dropping them off. But if they've never used one, I said, you got to learn how to do it. Now's the chance. Now's your one chance before, God forbid, you need to do this. So we had a lot of training, and it was a good event. Received one inquiry regarding a dock in the harbor. Someone who was buying property was curious about the rules for a dock offshore property. A number of people have contacted me regarding moorings, how to get a mooring in the harbor. We'll get on the list for that. Two individuals contacted me about moorings off of the beach in Fairfield, something I have to monitor and approve. Another jurisdiction up the coast contacted me because they had a derelict vessel, much as we did the last one we had that we had to deal with. They had one. They needed some advice as to how to understand the statutes and how we went about that. I think we jinxed ourselves, and I'll get to that in a second. Why? June 8th, I found a 20-foot log floating in the harbor adjacent to the Pequot Yacht Club and the moorings. I want to thank the Yacht Club for helping. It took 3 of their people plus me. It was so big to get it to shore, get it out on the crane, because we couldn't even get it out on the ramp at the yacht yard. It was too big and heavy, and to hoist it up out of the water on shore. And the Yacht Club chopped it up with a chainsaw and threw it in the dumpster themselves. We had the safety drill last week on the 12th. Very successful. We had the police boat sit offside of Penfield. The fire boat was at the Yacht Club. The takeaway was, as usual, communications was the issue. This time it was only one dummy, and it was the dummy. The mannequin the fire department has was put into the boat with an injury. And communication became an issue, what channel everyone was instructed to switch to. The police had people switch to one. There was some communication, even between the police and fire, not being able to communicate as they went by each other, trying to tell each other what was happening, and they couldn't hear each other as I was watching and trying to communicate. But they had a meeting for a lengthy period of time after the drill, the police and the fire, to talk about communications in the harbor area and how they were going to communicate with each other and with the club and with all of us. So it was very productive. We have the lost buoy, number 11, Green 11, went loose last year, as you may remember. Well, the Coast Guard finally came and picked it up and took it away. We had the blessing of the fleet Saturday. It was very successful. For those of you that were there know that. A number of boats came. The parade was very nice. Lots of people watching the parade. The green was opened up again where the construction was. The fence was down. It looked nice. And the boats, there were a lot of boats participating, and everything went very smoothly. Right after that, I pulled about 4 or 5 logs out of the channel floating near the lower wharf that someone dumped in there again from somewhere and came floating by. So then back to the derelict vessel. Much like the last one we had, a homeless person buying a sailboat trying to head to Florida, almost the same thing happened a few weeks ago. A gentleman bought a Catalina 25, was intending to sail to Florida on it. He made it, we're not sure if it was Norwalk or Stratford where he started from. There's some little dispute on that, but he made it as far as Fairfield. Liked it there. Was planning on anchoring and successfully did it until Saturday when his anchor didn't hold anymore or broke, and he ended up on shore directly outside of the New Penfield Pavilion in plain sight of it. And the good news is he was not on the boat at the time, or if he was, he got off in time, so and then he took off, made it difficult for us. So the police gave me a call. I went out. I declared it a derelict vessel under the statute. It had a 3-foot gaping hole on the side of it. The keel, the swing keel, those of you know the 25 Catalinas, it's 1,500 pounds on this boat. It's about 6 feet long, yay tall. It went up to the bottom of the boat and punctured the bottom and then fell off somewhere. So we don't know where that is right now. I've asked the police and to have the lifeguards go out and make sure it's not in the swimming area. Long and short of it is I declared it a derelict Sunday morning early and gave the owner 24 hours to remove it. He never showed up. I went back throughout the day to make sure it was not going to float away again, and it was high enough at the high tide line, and it was holding its position there. This morning, Public Works brought a payloader, got a dumpster, picked it up, put it into the dumpster in one large piece. It's destroyed, and it was destroyed on the beach. And then I got a phone call yesterday about someone wanting to put a mooring in off of Fairfield Beach, questioning the technical sides of putting a mooring in. So luckily, again, it was a derelict vessel. If it wasn't, it gets very expensive, and it's a long, many-month period to try to reunite the boat with its owner before you can dispose of it. And when it's in this condition, we can move a lot faster and get rid of it. It's becoming a problem throughout Connecticut with derelicts.
How did you first find out about this?
I got when the police boats were coming over to the parade.
Oh.
Because they had called me a day or two earlier and said, keep your eye out, we got another sailboat. They explained the gentleman's situation to me, and that we can't chase him away. He has the right to anchor if he wants to. And they said, we've warned him about anchoring, we've cautioned him, to move on, but we can't force him to be anchored safely until he wasn't anymore.
Darling.
When they came in for the 11th
to
fleet parade, they told me on the way
Harbor
by,
Commission meeting.
Oh, yeah, just saw something about Harbor Commission.
Thank you, darling.
Okay, and you're clipped a little bit, but that's you. See, it says Glenda
Yeah,
Shepherd.
it's been a problem
Well, look at you have one of these things too.
Yeah.
I was with Jamie Stringer last night. He went all the way down his arm.
Well, you know what? I was,
Either leaving them places or more
I've
importantly,
gone to
selling
his
them
hand
very
therapy, and
inexpensively.
she said
They're
she's a real
important
believer in
people who buy
the.
them.
It's supposed to be really good.
I know what they're
she
doing.
said at first she
I was told
poo-pooed them, she said they really work, and you wash with them,
pretty cheap
they
room
work.
for the summer.
Cool.
Who knew?
And the
So
good
what
news is
did
he
you
didn't make it off of
the outside
Virginia,
of
and
the
he was
hamster?
trying to go to Florida, and he only made it to us, so he was sick. That's what we've been up to.
Great. Thank you for that report. On to old business.
Clear day was the 7th.
Item 1 is the raised bills, 6914. Jeff, do we have any reports on that?
Well, our understanding is that the substitute bill, the deep support, in which we didn't, was not passed.
So that's good.
From the
Yeah.
French legislator, didn't want to keep bothering him, but he sent it in an email and a phone conversation. It was not going to be passed. The list of bills that was passed that was available from the legislature's website did not include that. So our assumption is that it wasn't passed, and now we're going to leave several representatives of several harbor commissions are going to get back with the DEP and take them up on their agreement to work with us to come up with a bill for next session that we can all agree to. So that's our next step to contact Pete. And I don't know, Kim, do you want me to bring up since we're working on the update of the harbor management plan, I was wondering if perhaps Kim could be a representative of the commission to be on a committee to work with Pete. I think there'll be someone from Norwalk and Greenwich and Stanford. That's what we're trying to organize now, not a big group, but people who are working to update the plans. So I started to jump ahead of you, but I think Kim might consider being this commission's representative to do that.
How did Kim respond?
She hasn't left the room, for the record.
Kim would be honored, but think it's appropriate for that appointment to come from the commission.
Sure.
And not.
Just wanted to make sure you were on board.
That's it.
I think it's a wonderful idea. Any thoughts?
But I hope you keep finding enough. I don't want to.
Commission would love to appoint you if you'll do it. Work with, thank you. Kim is appointed as,
You're appointing her as
yeah, I think so, I can do that as, acting, yeah. Just to get it rolling, I don't wanna hold it up another month.
I just put that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to usurp anybody.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you. Item number 2, the Lower Wharf rebuild update. Mr. Stebbins?
Well, we have the, June 13th,
And
the approval for the addition of installation of the additional parking pier. Now I have to work with Bill Earl, and I have to get administrative approval for the work on the wall.
We noticed,
So Bill has shared with
so we noticed, and we'll notice the
measures that they employed to do the work around Curry Green to protect basically the erosion control
and
locations. So we have to incorporate that into an application
Great.
Yeah, so we have all the regulatory approvals except the coastal site plan, which the director said can be done with it administratively, doesn't require a public hearing notice with the TP&Z Commission.
Will this be a winter construction, fall, winter this year, do you, if you had to predict?
I don't know, Bill would know that.
I can comment on Devin Santa. I had a conversation, he was walking his dog by my house, and he felt, yes, if all regulatory approvals were in, he thought that the work could begin in fall or, if need be, winter.
I'm just thinking, because so many people are out there all the time, and
Yeah.
the summer, if it turns into a spring, summer, you may hear a lot of,
He said, I told him the same thing, we
Yeah.
were getting a lot of questions on
Yeah.
it. And he said, fall or winter.
Thank you. Mooring Committee, any report?
No, the only thing I'd mention is that we're looking forward to getting a new secretary because there's some housekeeping to be done with paying invoices and checking on deposits and town account. So hopefully we don't get too backed up in it.
Right. Good.
I did get an email from Betty just before she retired, and she asked me to send the invoices and credit memos to Sabrina. She gave me an email address. So I assumed that she was the new secretary, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that brings up something I thought about. I know Betty had been doing this for quite a while with our commission and was very on top of everything, but should we have a member that at least knows what's going on with the budgeting and the so forth? I mean, maybe it's something we should take up when Chris is here, speak to, but might not be a bad idea. I've been on the commission a year and a half now, and I still have questions how that all works.
Yeah, I think I asked Jen Carpenter by email if there was any plan for a successor to Betty, and she hasn't responded yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Okay.
Nothing is clear on the horizon, unfortunately.
So we have time to think about that, obviously, but, okay. Harbor Master boat purchase update. Jen Carpenter, if you got it, sent around the revised draft of the Harbor Master duties as we see them, as our commission sees them, that the Harbor Master Boat Commission or committee was asked to put together. And I made those changes that we talked about last. Did anybody get this? And I didn't. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, did you get it with the red?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So those were the changes. I meant to send her the corrected one, but
Just giving it to Jeff now.
this way you can see the changes that we added since last. Give Jeff a minute to look that over. Other than that, I thought we were going to have a guest speaker We don't know.
I must be here.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it.
We did receive a email from a gentleman, I believe it was at the last meeting, and heard about it that way. And Don forwarded it on to us. Somehow you caught it. And he spoke very highly. And
Mr. Nishbal?
yeah, yeah. He was a member of the public, I guess, and a concerned citizen that thought he should put his 2 cents in and thought that the harbor master for Fairfield should have a vote.
Yeah, and
I thought it came from a salesman because he actually put on a picture of a boat and the specs and stuff.
yeah, it was a soft-sided inflatable
Yeah,
boat that he recommended based on, I think Southport Fire Department uses it too. And that was his thought.
Yeah,
Michael Nishbal
yeah.
sent an email to me and to some others. I forwarded it on to Chris and George. I can share it with the commissioners.
So, this is chairman or town official. Oh, yeah, we'll do it after and give Jeff some time to digest it. Okay, the commission would like to recognize Mr. Beckers with comments on a vote.
Yeah, just, I don't know if you have any specific questions or anything related to it on the town side, but we're supportive of it. The only thing I would say, we're fine to budget next season for maintenance. Obviously, year one, there won't be much maintenance cost. I don't know if it's early season next regardless, but within the budget, that's easy enough. Risk, we should be able to roll that up on our normal policies. We carry about a dozen watercraft anyways at various sizes. And every one of the ones that we're in the process of getting are all bigger and more expensive, so we know we're going to take some hits on the insurance policies for that. From a sizing, the biggest thing I would say, just multi-purpose. It'd be helpful to make sure that if we have things on the water, that this is something that can be used for that. So I would just keep it not too big, not too small. There's probably a balance in there. We've sized up some of our other boats. So like the 2 fire department craft are now going to go from like that inflatables and having to 25 foot state boat as an example, going to a 34 from a 28, I believe it was. Yeah, from a 28 for the larger fireboat. Something that's, call it medium and nimble, but in the overall fleet would be helpful to have out there. I know that Brian has at times, we've had like last year with the rescue out there, and he was out. An extra pair of eyes is helpful, so that's kind of my.
Couple questions.
I don't know what sizing where this conversation's been going for like a year, so.
Yeah.
But we remain supportive. Yeah.
Good. Couple questions. So there was some concern probably a year ago whether Brian, not being a town official, would be able to pilot the boat by himself. Is that been resolved, or?
So there were some questions about that, but his designation still comes down from the state, and he has an official role on our waterways. So we haven't been able to identify anything that says he can't do it. He's driven by internal policy, but that's not a problem. We had checked with the carriers. Nobody on the insurance carrier side had an issue with that. So, usually the operators are listed. That's usually the bigger thing. It's common operators, or it could be, people who are boat captains on the larger craft. We usually list who they are that are supposed to drive them, but
Okay, good.
Bigger issue.
And it being, so it would be, if it were approved and purchased, it would be considered a town boat, and you could foresee possibly other town organizations using it if need be,
I think that's it's an if need be, but I usually go with if, I think what we're trying to do in anything we look at is versatility being, even if it's, once every 3 years, but if there's something, yes, it's in the town fleet, it'd be helpful to know that if we're gonna make an investment as a community, that it has, some element of versatility. Do I foresee on a regular basis other, departments attempting to use it? No, it's pretty much 99% of the time, be focused on the harbor master and doing what he does, so.
So would the town be paying for it then, if it's part of the town fleet?
So I think the maintenance of it was what we were talking about paying, which we do through the budget, so we make sure to appropriate it in the harbor. We probably do it under the harbor management line still, but that's town funded to do that.
But the other town boats have been paid for by the town.
Some of them are from grants, so the police boats, all are part of them. Most of their fleet costs, including rebuilds on engines, et cetera, are done. Those are actually done through port security grants. The fire boats have been town funds. The last one, the larger one, is actually half an insurance claim, and we got the boat for free. That was the boat that we had prior to that. So combination, I guess, would be, and then the question is what accounts. We have multiple accounts to draw off of for the purchases. So I think the thought was that there was potentially under the Harbor Commission has an account that they may be able to draw the base price of it, but that we're more than happy on the town side for some outfitting funds if needed. If there's some ancillary items, we're more than happy to cover them through that. And then the town would budget for any fuel costs, maintenance costs, et cetera. Newer boat, probably not going to be over-exercised on the engine. The reality is we're not going to see any, it's unlike police and fire where they rebuild the engines every couple of years. This is going to be 20 years from now before you need it. But if you're winterizing, that would be it. Fuel, we're more than happy to cover the fuel all the time on it. It's being used. I know it's a unique situation. You have the commission and the role, and then you've got the harbor master and being appointed down through the state. So this is a little bit unique. We also went out and we looked at what other communities, I don't have to tell you guys, but we looked at what other communities to some degree have done in this particular role. And who gets, who they ask to be designated or not. Some of them it's an employee and they, it's wrapped up under their law enforcement arm. It's a little bit different here. So I think trying to find, what works best for Fairfield would be the question, I think, for everybody to ask. So from the administration's point of view, what might work best for Fairfield, our thoughts on it have been that if the initial purchase is done through an account in concert with the Harbor Management Commission, that the maintenance would get picked up through the budget and that the risk gets taken care of, not directly through the budget, you don't have to allocate, but we do it through our, the insurance coverage would get done through the broader policies that the town has. And that, again, I'd argue probably 99% of the time it's going to be, the harbor master behind the helm doing what he does, but certainly having it in the town fleet is a helpful thing, even if it's a phone call to the harbor master to come out on the water and be another set of eyes and resource, to pilot the craft, and yeah.
So how does the decision process go in terms of choosing a boat? Does the commission decide this is the boat we like and we have to get some approval from RTM or?
So that's a good question.
I spoke to Adam.
Yeah.
Adam in purchasing, and there are ranges. If it's below $5,000, we just have to agree to it.
Yeah.
The one we want. If it's above $25,000 and there's something in the middle, we have to actually put it out to bid.
Okay.
So we would write specifications to what size we wanted, what size engine, what sort of accessories it has, And then the purchasing department would write up a bid, and he looked for state contractors, which we could just go to, because if we're approved, he couldn't find anything that fit our needs. So we would put it out to bid, and then companies would be able to bid on it, and we would then approve as a commission which one we wanted. Since we're approving the purchase, it would be on us.
And we can put it out as an RFP versus a strict low bid number. So if you have criteria that you'd like, it can go to a wider pool so that you end up with, choice that isn't always monetarily driven, because that doesn't always get you the best result. So it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily be okay to spend an astronomically larger amount, but when things come into a certain range and you say, actually, that hole is going to be a little bit better for us based on this, or that spec on the, it's going to be better, then within that range, there's some flexibility to pick. But I would like to see it be done in concert between both. I mean, you guys are authorizing the fund piece and are going to be the primary driver of it. So we want to make sure it meets the mission as, seen by the work that's done here. I think the only thing really on our end is obviously go through the proper channels as far as purchasing. And, from a sizing perspective, it would be helpful to come to some consensus when it goes out. You can put it out with a range, but it would be helpful to come up with a consensus on something that's going to be able to go back and forth. And it's not so much within each of the harbors specifically, it's more when you're operating out and you're moving from one end to the other, oftentimes having to go out and around the reef, and that, it gets, a little more chopped if you're something too small. At the same rate, I would advocate not going too big, and that we've just sized up several rowboats. So I have the counter argument, like now I'm dealing, a fire department they used to have, or as of next season, used to have had, I think it's a 17-foot rigid that's going to a 25-foot. So, that's kind of the range that you want to replace in, ideally. But you don't want to go too big, because you want to make sure that, I see Brian out there to come down the harbor, able to kind of get around. So,
Any other questions?
I have a question. Once the boat, the specifications are agreed to on the boat, and it gets to the point of now shopping one, is a used boat that's in good condition a consideration? Because you're talking about bidding something, or are we talking about only new equipment here?
So we typically don't do that, but we have on a couple of occasions gone the used route. So you'd want to keep it used, but still relative, like new.
Yeah.
We go too much beyond that, and typically on the town side, we just went through this recently we're actually buying from another municipality. It's a skid steer or tractor. I can't remember which of the two. But we okayed doing it because it was like 10 years old and it had like 100 hours on it. So, half the price and a great machine that'll last Fairfield 20 years. If you have a situation like that, and some of those we can do a bid waiver on it as well. So yeah, if we have the right situation where we go out and we want to do that, where we can demonstrate that it's still going to last Fairfield a long time. The only caution I make while going in those decisions is, I like to think our administration's been very much trying to move the ball down the field on a lot of items like this that have lingered, that a lot of people in the past might have even said no. I could point to the fire boats as my sort of pet project ones where, they literally got one from a municipality for free, where we said, go out and buy the right boat, and you kind of had to look at them at the time and say, it's entirely possible that if you make a 10-year decision, you're going to find yourself in 10 years being told to suck it up and deal with the thing even if it's not right. So get what's right for you now that you believe will last, and will last probably, a lot of times on these decisions, we're talking 15, 20-year decisions. So make sure it's right. Now, if you find a used boat that's like new, that's 30 grand less, that's got 3 years on it with a great engine, and you're ready to go, and you think it's got 20 years of longevity, go for it, but just, make good long-term decisions now while we're actually making some headway. I mean, it's just as a point of consideration.
Can I conclude then that the boats that you're retiring from the fire department and so forth are not boats that we could consider for our purposes? They're inappropriate.
I'd offer them up. So one of them's a 17-foot rigid that you can see at the yacht yard sitting at the end of the dock. It is in and out of maintenance a couple of times minimum throughout the season. That boat will probably stay in the fleet from a secondary perspective for a few more years on a trailer at a station, but then be out. And then the other one from from fire was the Metal Craft that actually sank and actually it can be revived, but they were at a point where they were about to spend almost $400,000 to rebuild part of the tailboard and reconfigure it to the design deficiency to be repaired from when it was originally manufactured 20 years ago. It's going to get scuttled at this point.
I'm just anticipating a public question. Couldn't we recycle another boat from the fleet?
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
No,
But the issue with that Southport Rib isn't the specification of the boat, it's just that particular piece of equipment is either tired or has other uses, is that what you're saying?
It's very tired. Even the engine on it, I mean, the mechanic has to pull it out a few times, it's tired. If we were going to keep it, and it's not that the boat couldn't be. I mean, you could make the scenario, I mean, and people rehab the boat, but you probably have to end up rehabbing not only either a rebuild or a replacement realistically on the engine. You'd have to do quite a bit of work on the inflatable portions. That's definitely showing signs. So by the time you start to do all of that, you sort of end up in a scenario that now I've spent, I could, on top of my head, 30, 40 grand, and I'd make the argument just in your instance, knowing what's, out there, you're not looking for, most likely, you're not looking for, like in police and fire, right, like they wanted to step up to kind of the next caliber, and they're dealing with boats that are completely different in the way they're configured. But even on your end, I would say you probably don't necessarily need to go with with a rigid inflatable. You could probably go with a standard boat, just a normal fiberglass hull. You probably anywhere in the, I'd say probably on the bottom end 17, on the top end 20. You probably want to find something in the sweet spot, but give or take a foot on either end. But you go more than that, you're gonna have a problem. You go less than that, you're gonna not necessarily want to go out and around the reef if you got 2.5, 3 foot chop. I mean, it won't be ideal. Things we would consider using it for that you'd want at least a little, again, it's like in that spot you'll be all right, but we do dive operations out there, sometimes just running things back and forth where we don't want to pull the main craft. And what we've been doing for dive operations, and Brian actually was out there for this one, it happened to be a very calm day, which is good, but he was out there last year when we had it off the reef. What we've now got is the fire department has stood up a pretty sizable dive team. So you get around the reef, those instances, we actually operate on both sides. So a lot of times what happens is if we're not 100% sure what side, which you kind of never are, PD takes one side and they have a methodology in the church, and then fire takes the other side. They put their boats, on one or some combination of both. So sometimes you need to run things back and forth, either to shore or back in and out of the marinas. So that's kind of, those are the things where I foresee additional, apparatus on the water. So, and so on my end, I'm also the emergency management director, so usually those I'm on the team, and I'm just getting in mind. The things that we're looking for is, at that point in time, less having to rely on, we've got a neighbor coming from, 2 towns over, maybe with a boat or something, and we've got the ability here. So we hope that those are few and far between, and mostly the boats being used in the harbor as intended. But deepening the fleet is always helpful.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks very much.
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I see that.
we have any discussion on, what we just heard?
I mean, what I would add is the questions that I had were really around maintenance and storage and things like that he answered very directly. So I think the bigger discussion would be around how's the boat spec'd, but.
Right.
Nice try, Jeff. I saw what you did there.
Trying to get in the paper. Just because we have money, doesn't mean we want to.
Although I know we're on the record. I was surprised by his comments about a rib, because I would think in that size range, whether it's, 17 to 20 feet, 17 to 21, whether it's fiberglass or rib would be extremely suitable for the purpose, so I don't know how we go about process of speccing something.
I know some of the firemen complain about the rib, if you talk to them about that boat, because I asked them about, how they like that style boat in that size. And they said it's too, squirrely's not the word, but just, bouncy, not something they like to take out if there's any chop whatsoever, because it doesn't handle well.
But their mission's a little different.
Right, but I'm just going to say that's their view on a rib that size. It just didn't feel, I don't know.
Yeah, they're running at a speed and a different.
Right, they have 3 guys on board, and it's not that big.
Yeah.
You look at it, it's small.
Yeah, because that's a waterline issue, not a rib issue.
Yeah. They're getting the bigger boat, I guess. They're getting a 20, what do you say, 27, I think. They're getting a big safe boat, which is like the small Fairfield one, I think. Police boat, because the big police boat's 33, and the fire boat's going to be just like that, but even bigger.
I would actually think something like the boat that he was talking about that's currently in Southport is a terrific specification outside of the fact that boat's used and not right, but I mean,
Well, it's that
size. Yeah, that 17-foot
17
pro
foot.
or whatever that is.
Oh, on Southport, I'm sorry.
No, in
Wrong
Southport.
Harbor, I'm sorry.
That
That's the
type of boat would probably be within the spec, I would think. Not that particular boat.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Well, Chris and I, so that, we could try to get to a consensus on this, we reached out to most of the members that we could reach. I guess I had your old email. I did send you an email on the old one, asking if there were any concerns that I could work on to address for the meeting. So the committee that was formed feels that A boat is appropriate to purchase, B, that since we have the money in the moorings account, which is for the betterment of the harbor, we could take the money from there and still have enough to resupply all the moorings. God forbid anything tragic happened or anything large. And we feel that, we've answered as many of the questions we can as far as whether Brian can pilot it, where the insurance is going to come from, where the maintenance is going to come from, where it will be stored, down to who will be hauling it in and out. We talked to Brian about that, and I think I included that last month. So we feel as though, Chris isn't here, so I don't know whether we should vote on it yet. Any other feelings?
Well, I mean, we have a quorum, we can vote on it.
Okay.
Whether it's here or not, for whatever that's worth. So whether we want to delay it or not,
Okay.
the only comment that I would make is where we're at with this boat, I think, is part of a recognition of the greater role that the harbor master has as it relates to the state and the rest of the town. That's part of the impetus for this and part of the clarification of the role and part of the need for the boat, some of which we just heard. So I think as it relates to the HMC, we should just be cognizant of we need to talk about it from within the jurisdiction of the HMC and be cognizant of the greater role, but not overreach our own authority in terms of what we're doing. I think that's important.
Yeah. But as we saw, the police contacted Brian about a boat on Jennings Beach. It's not in the harbor management's purview, but he is acting more so for the town of Fairfield. So as Becker said, it's a good thing for the town of Fairfield. That's kind of where my feeling was.
Which is my point. Right?
Okay, good.
There's a greater good here, but the HMC can still only act within its authority.
So we have to decide, one, on the job description, and two, on whether to go forward to specify a vote?
Yes, Chris had said, he had come up with wording, to that, which I can bring up if we want to do that, but do you want to go back to
I've got a comment on
the?
the job description.
Okay.
I want to do that first.
Yeah.
Minor.
Sure.
It's on the very last bullet point,
Okay,
and there's actually two comments. One is I think there's a typo. In the second line, after the word patrols is the word under,
mhm,
that I think should be deleted, grammatically.
probably,
Regular safety patrols and increased is, I think, what the intended
Yes,
line is
you're
supposed to say.
yeah,
And I might also suggest in that same bullet point in the first line, where it says official on-water presence, we may want to say in Southport Harbor, recognizing, again, that there's a greater thing, but this list is how the harbor master supports the FHMC. And so my suggestion would be that it be specific to Southport Harbor in that capacity. I think the rest of it handles state statutes and state rules and other things beyond the HMC.
Which bullet is that?
The very last bullet point,
I
reads,
see the
provide as directed by the HMC an official on-water presence.
Mm-hmm.
in Southport Harbor.
And I would suggest we say in Southport Harbor with regular safety patrols and increased presence during events.
I have paper. Can I make a comment?
Sure.
And the whole point about the state statutes. So if we're going to reference the statutes to be enforced by the state, I think we should make this a little bit more consistent with what our harbor management plan actually says.
And I write a note to you. I'm writing a note to you in your book. I want to write just one word.
As practicable. And I think that should be included because the way this is written, it makes it sound like we are expecting our harbor master to enforce all of the ordinances that are prescribed by the state. I think that's not true. We want him to enforce things as practicable, which is like a very small number of those statutes. So I think that section needs just a qualifier to keep it reasonable.
Okay,
Because otherwise it sounds like we are expecting him to enforce any and all.
you're talking about like, intoxicated piloting.
Well, not just that. I mean, there's statutes about heads being pumped overboard instead of a holding tank, or PFDs for 8 people on a boat. I mean, there's probably hundreds of regulations that could fall under that. We're not really expecting our harbor master to enforce those unless it falls within the realm of common sense. So I think we need the phrase "as practical," and that is what it says in the harbor management plan. So
Great.
that would make it
Okay,
consistent.
that would be consistent, yeah.
If you're talking about the harbor master's responsibilities, in updating the harbor management plan, we have a section on the harbor master's
I
responsibilities.
think I read the old one, yeah, you
Old one.
forwarded it to me, yes.
Does this then mean?
We were hoping that we could get this done to somehow include in your updated plan.
What about the possibility of when we go through the plan update and we talk with other people that we modify that?
We could always amend this.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So this isn't, like.
No, it's
that's
not,
what
we're not carving this in stone,
For the
no.
purpose today of
Yes.
deciding on the vote, but when you provide that to the committee, we may make changes to it that we think are,
And my point of view would be that part of the reason this has come up is because of something that I brought up previously, which is an acknowledgement that the role of the harbor master is evolving as times change, but is also broader. And so we thought, or updating the harbor master role since the last time we did it, I think that we used to bring Brian in, was smart to do as part of this exercise. So the two are harmonized. If the HMC updates that further, then synchronizing with the HMC could happen anytime.
I'm just thinking because the issue of the harbor master's enforcement authority is something that's been discussed for many years. And in the course of updating the harbor management plan, we get additional direction from DEEP, which has to review the plan. And so that there may be modifications to what you.
Absolutely, and we would welcome those, but,
For this purpose.
a couple of times in here, we refer to the state, as prescribed by state statutes enforcement. So we're not asking them to enforce anything that isn't already being asked by the state. I don't. So other than those changes, which
Jeff, your phrase "as practical," I think.
Practicable?
As practicable.
As practical, that would be inserted after policies from before concerning.
I put it in after properties, were as prescribed by state statutes, enforcing applicable marine ordinances and ensuring enforcement of laws, regulations, and policies concerning water or properties as practicable.
Yes, that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah. I love that word. We don't use it enough. Practicable. It's a useful word.
Yeah, but let me, Don, I'll work on that word.
We'll do that as practical.
I may have to create a second sentence, or, you probably know better than I do. I was a computer guy, not a word guy.
Now you're both.
Okay, so can we verify if Dave Henry is still on the line? Oh, sorry, I turned you down. Dave, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Bill Perugini, are you still on the line?
I am, yes.
Great, thank you. So I would like to call for a motion to form a resolution by the committee to authorize the Harbor Master Boat Committee to move forward with pricing and putting out to bid for approval by the commission a boat of 17 feet or less with a cost of $60,000 or less.
Where are you getting that number, 60,000? Just
from research that we've been doing. Actually, on second thought, maybe we should make it 70,000. The boats that we have spec'd out have been in the low 60s. And this would be with the caveat that the town cooperates with us as stated by Becker, whereas our harbor master would be able to pilot the boat and they would insure it and help with maintenance. So that's a resolution I'd like to get a motion for.
So moved.
Thank you.
You want to say 17?
17 feet or less, I think it's.
Yeah.
There's only one of them that you had the quote on is not. And if you don't want to consider that one, the maritime.
How big was that?
That's an 18.9. That's 18 feet 9 inches. I only point that I just looked that up because I wanted to see the exact size of that one.
Does anyone have a problem with that if we could fit it into that budget?
I don't. I have a question though. So the motion here is to approve a spec and a budget to move forward in trying to identify a boat.
Yes.
Does the commission then need to approve the purchase of the boat at another time, or is this giving this committee the authorization to move forward and pull the boat and purchase the boat?
We've already moved, I think Chris brought up and moved that we would go forward in looking at the specs and approving the purchase of not approving the purchase of the boat, of looking into the purchase of the boat. So I think this is the next step in being that, I think at some point we got to get to the point where we're saying, okay, we're going to spend this money up to this amount, and then once we go out to bid, we'll come back to the committee and say, these are the boats we found. Can we approve these? I don't know how to word that exactly, but.
Does anyone remember what the balance is in our 102 account? Is it?
Last I saw was 230, I believe. I think I have it. HMC account balance, this is for mooring maintenance. As of the end of the fiscal year 2024, it was $287,851.
Yeah.
I think that was something that you came up with?
Yeah, yes, right, yeah.
So what you really need is a resolution that allows the commission, the committee to develop specifications that can then be used by the purchasing department to.
Yes, but I think we have to commit to spending the money to go to the purchasing. They're not gonna wanna hear us, putting it out to bid and then saying, no, we don't wanna buy it.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we are resolving that the commission move forward with developing specifications and other information needed to purchase a boat 17 feet or less in the $70,000
I
budget
think we
range.
changed it to 18.
18?
Well, or 18.9, if you're gonna look at the maritime, I'm looking at how big a whale
Yeah,
is,
well, it's still, but
Yeah, I'm just trying to come up with,
not to belabor the point, but what does or less mean? I mean, there's gonna be a low end to this range also, right? So do we wanna say we're not gonna do a 13-foot boat, right? There's a question about whether we would do a 15-foot.
Correct.
I would think, so.
Okay.
It's
not
probably
between-
probably a 17 to 18-foot boat that we're talking
17 to
about.
19. One of these is 18.9.
yeah,
Yes, I was saying with the
American
low end of
Skip
the
is
range.
18.9, a whaler Montauk is 17.4.
Yeah, so
So that's why I
I
wanted to,
would call it a 17 to 18-foot boat.
Yeah,
It's 18 feet until it becomes 19.
okay.
So one of the boats that's being considered is a Boston whaler?
And I just threw it out there tonight to see what size the whaler 17 was, because we all call them 17.
These are ones we did research on
Yeah,
just
yeah.
for getting an idea of cost and.
So the fiberglass, open boats, outboard.
Yeah.
or-
Yep.
Center console,
It's a work
utilitarian.
boat.
Yeah, right.
It's a work
I
boat.
can see a
It's not-
Ripcraft or a Zodiac Pro too. So I would suggest we call it 17 to 18 feet,
Okay,
because I think that's the target spec.
And are we-
Not to exceed $70,000 is what seems to be on the table.
Not to exceed 7.
But maybe we can say with a target of 60, not to exceed 70.
And what did you say, a Zodiac or a what did you say?
Ripcraft?
Ripcraft.
And you think it could be a useful life of 20 years, longer?
At least.
at least,
It's not gonna get beat on.
Right.
yeah. Brian's, yours is 13-footer now is how old?
In 1963.
All right, so a 60-year use.
Yeah, it's getting close.
Ryan, if you're also, Highfields are used for this too. And there's a Highfield dealer in Norwalk who maintains town boats.
Craft. USA.
Right, so
16 to 18 foot. Target price of 60,000
Highfield?
up to 70,000.
yeah, target price of 60.
Not to exceed 70.
Not to exceed 70.
But I'm hearing different things on length, because,
We want the resolution to be 16 to 18 feet inclusive, so,
16 to 18 feet.
Yeah.
He had said 17 to 20 feet.
oh, sorry.
No, he in that sense is Beck.
Oh, Becker, yeah, no.
Yeah, he also qualified it in saying that
Do it right.
he was, it was just saying don't overboat it, don't underboat it.
Right.
But it seems to me the 16 to 18 feet is probably the sweet spot.
Are there any questions from the gentleman online?
And Brian, your current vessels, what you've been using is only like, what, 13 feet?
So he wants to know the size of Brian's whaler.
Currently, it's 13 feet, which takes on water when there are waves.
Yeah, I mean, when the waves kick up around the reef there, like, I guess my concern would be, how confident are we that a 17-foot vessel, if that's what we choose, will be sufficient, for the life expectancy that we hope to get out of it? Because it could, again, when the tide changes around the reef there, I mean, it gets really dicey.
Brian, can you speak to that?
I can.
Okay.
I've done everything you could think of doing around that reef in a 17-foot Boston whaler.
Okay.
At all kinds of speeds and wave heights.
Yeah, when you get to a boat like a 17, whether it's I took a Maritime out, I took the yacht clubs out to sea, because I'm used to my 13, which I got soaked last year when it was a little choppy. Anytime it gets choppy, I can't go anywhere. I mean, even we're talking 1 foot or less, it gets wet on a little 13 whaler. But I took the yacht club, has a Maritime skiff, one of these 18-footers. And I went out there just to see how it, they said, take it for a test drive to see what it feels like a boat that size. You don't make a mistake. And that would, right, you're right. That can handle those things.
That can handle.
Whalers can handle. In the Long Island, because you're not going out in 5 or 6 foot seas. There's no reason to. But if you got a foot or two of waves, you're right, and you know how to handle a boat.
So in that context, this boat isn't replacing the role of first responders.
Correct. Right. And I'm not going out with that. Right.
It's a support boat.
It's a support boat, and it's a nice.
So then, maybe I should make a fresh resolution?
Yes. Can you do that? Put that little silver thing a little closer to you.
Perhaps, how does this sound? Resolve that the Harbor Management Commission Boat Study Committee move to work to develop specifications for a boat support to Harbor Master that would be approximately 16 to 18 feet in length, costs about $60,000, not to exceed $70,000. And this would be with the caveat that the town would provide the insurance coverage and maintenance costs if the harbor management can use its funds to buy the boat itself. That's pretty choppy.
Do you want them to go out to bid as well, the committee?
Now, the purchasing department does.
No. I mean, go to the you want the committee to go to the purchasing department?
That's
what I'm talking about. To work with the town, I think.
Developing that information for the purchasing department to use.
Could I get a second, and then there would be any questions? Anyone online? Anyone here?
Oh, I'll second.
Okay. Any questions?
I have one comment, which is I'd like to just make sure that the minutes reflect the input that we had from the town, because some of the motion was based on the information that was presented.
Yeah.
So let's make sure the minutes reflect that.
The minutes, which I will prepare, will reflect the essence of what he has said, and also refer people to the the full recording for import of what Mr. Becker said.
Okay, as I mentioned before, I'd like to do a yay or nay vote by roll call. Don Hyman?
Yay.
Doug Metchek?
Yay.
Mr. Perugini?
Yay.
Mr. Warren?
Yay.
Mr. Smith is not here. Mr. Henry?
Yay.
And I am a yay. Resolution passes.
Unanimous.
Next steps will be updated next week, or next month.
Good.
Thank you, everyone. That's not the end of the meeting, but thank you for that. Item number 5, the Plan of Conservation and Development Subcommittee. Who wants?
I can give a brief report. I've learned from the TPZ member with whom I talked that the TPZ intends to finalize the draft for adoption, draft POCD update for adoption on June 26th. And it anticipates a public hearing on September 9th. So there's a formal review period required after they have the draft for adoption. And I believe it's 60 days for the Board of Selectmen and 35 days for the Harbor Management Commission. So assuming we get the draft for adoption soon after the June 26th meeting, we can discuss it both in July and August in terms of our response and how we present our recommendations. We have the proposed coastal vision statement that addresses the entire coastal area. We also have a section about just concerning the harbor management plan. So the committee will have to look at those recommendations and see how it relates to the draft for adoption. Quite interesting. You're familiar with this omnibus housing bill that hasn't been signed yet by the governor. And there's been a lot of opposition to that. And part of the opposition has to do that certain housing development proposals will be approved as of right without planning and zoning analysis or public hearings. And one of the questions is, it certainly seems that this overrides a certain amount of local autonomy, and also appears in the eyes of many to elevate the goals of providing housing over the goals of protecting the environment. And you asked Deep the question if it's certain within the coastal management area, if there are housing developments that are approved as of right, including the conversion of commercial space to residential space, what does that mean for coastal site plan reviews and review of applications for consistency with the Coastal Management Act? And of course, we haven't had a response back from Deep yet about that. But the other night in Stamford, we had a good discussion with the Harbor Commission and the consultant preparing Stamford's. They're calling it the comprehensive plan. It's the POCD. And we brought up the issue about, for the purpose of the comprehensive plan, are you going to state that certain goals are more important than others, including goals for housing and development, that they would supersede environmental protection goals? And the consultant said, no, we would not say that. And I think that's something to be thinking about in terms of the POCD. Make the recommendation that goals for environmental protection are not, what do you want to call it, subverted or given less significance than goals for development. But so we'll have a couple months to look at the draft POCD.
When is that public hearing again? September?
Well, this is what I was informed, that the intent is to have the public hearing on September 9th.
Thank you.
Well,
we have July and August to discuss the response.
So we'll get a copy of it before September?
I'm anticipating that if they finalize the draft for adoption on June 26th, we'll receive it right after that.
Good.
Because there's a 60-day comment period by the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, okay.
And ours is within that. And then, of course, there's the question of, if we cannot make a favorable commission does not make a favorable recommendation on a proposal referred to it, that the town planning and zoning needs a 2/3 vote to approve something that does not receive a favorable recommendation from the Harbor Management Commission. So that's my report on the POC.
Great, thank you. Do you have any news on the status of the SHIP grant refund?
I think so. I spoke with the controller, Ms. Bossi, this afternoon. She was out last week, and talked with her about the need of addressing the return of the funds, and then right after I talked with her, I spoke with the finance director from the Connecticut Port Authority, who said the Port Authority finance director was going to contact Ms. Bossi directly to see what the schedule might be for returning the funds. And I see emails that has happened. So it looks like this is significance of resolving this is the Port Authority has informed us that we should anticipate another round of SHIP grants this year. And of course, if we were to apply for another grant of
We
some
can't be
sort,
in arrears.
we don't want, we want to be in compliance with what we've been asked to do with the previous grant.
So is there anything else our commission can do? We think
so.
it's out of our hands and into the town.
Unless, we also have to provide a status report on our progress on the harbor management plan, because that was also funded with the SHIP grant. But the first thing is to return the large amount of money that we were not able to expend for the dredging project. So it seems like there was progress today.
Thank you.
What is Ms. Bossy's position?
She's the controller, town controller.
First name? Do you remember?
Caitlin.
Thank you.
Caitlyn, I believe.
Thank you.
Ms. Taylor, do you have an update for the
I do.
harbor management plan?
I do. We met before this meeting. We have reviewed the whole harbor management plan. We have made suggestions for updates. The making those updates and writing it is now in Jeff's capable hands. So we will probably not meet for the next couple of months while he writes. And as he writes, he will submit to us the product, what he's written, and we will review it. When we're all done with that, the plan will come here.
Great. Thank you. Sounds good. There was some news on the Tide Mill Dam, Mr. Sedman.
Oh, yes. And that's related to the update of the plan, too. We can address that. But I think maybe I mentioned at the last meeting, a person from DEEP inspected the tide gates in the dam, and as we described, found it somewhat disrepaired. One of the tide gates is missing. And was able to talk, the person from DEEP was one of the owners, either one of the owners or the owner of the dam and of the tide gate. And they had he said their initial discussion was good. The owner recognizes it has to be repaired. One thing that has to still be done is that the owner is responsible for providing a dam inspection report to DEEP, which is past due. Then they've had subsequent discussions, including with DEEP's Fisheries Division, which apparently is aware that there is an increased fish population upstream of the dam. It's probably related, or would be related to the missing tide gate. And so DEEP they had a department meeting last week. They believe that they can find funding to provide first they have to design it, but a new sort of passage that would allow fish passage.
A fish ladder or something?
Well, I don't know if it would be a fish ladder, but some sort of a tide gate or a fish ladder that the owner apparently is receptive to. So they're working on that now, trying to find the funds. And they also asked if the town would be willing to be a third party in an agreement for a fish passage, new tide gate. Conservation director, when I talked with him today, met on site and knew this, before I talked with him, and is agreeable to pursuing this. And I talked with the town engineer as well. But, it depends on what the town's responsibility would be as a third party. But apparently, from what the DEP person told me, it wouldn't be for maintenance. It would be just for observation and reporting any lack of maintenance because DEEP isn't on site. But that would have to be worked out. But this is something that we could craft a recommendation for in the harbor management plan to support, first of all, the maintenance and repair is necessary of the tide gates, but also to support any enhancements for environmentally sound enhancements for improving fisheries habitat and so forth. So it's interesting that they're pursuing this in a positive way. But I don't know any more about it. But the town, based on what Mr. Bishop said today and Mr. Hurley, is willing to discuss this more and consider being a third party. Of course, it depends on what the responsibilities would be. So we'll craft something in the harbor management plan in support of this.
Great. But it sounds like the town and Deep and the owner all know about the problem with the,
Oh, yes.
with the dam and there.
Yes.
It's out of our hands and it's someone's working on it.
But it's also within the commission's jurisdiction, since that's the upstream of the harbor management area. And,
I think it's not so much out of our hands, it's just something we have to monitor.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
we can help craft an appropriate recommendation.
But we've passed it, we've kicked it up the chain, so to speak.
It reminds me, if I may,
Yeah.
I got an inquiry by a dock owner on the east side of the harbor, way up. There's several power boats that are on the east side. And something I noticed as well, there's a foam, if that's the right word to use, a foam or a surface, because of the way the water's flowing now over the dam, the piece missing, it makes this surface floating, it's not scum, I don't know what the technical, you might know that, it's foam on it, and he wanted to know whether he could put a bubbler in or whether he should put little pieces of wood, because he doesn't like it getting near his engine and accumulating around his hull. I assume that's a naturally occurring phenomenon now that we have the water. Deep hasn't made any concerns. I went and took a look at it a few times. It's in an isolated area. I think it's just because the water falling makes...
No one has said anything about any sort of contamination.
Contamination, yeah.
It's pretty common. I mean, I've seen it in Southport Harbor for decades. I've also seen it in Saugatuck Harbor.
Yeah.
Up the Saugatuck River, I mean, when you go up that way. So I think it's just a pretty...
I think we just never had it there before is the reason. Cause
I've seen it there before.
Has it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's, all right, that answers the...
Great.
I saw it there too recently.
Yeah.
I think there's almost a detergent action in some.
It looks like a detergent, like
in some of the organic material in the water. When it agitates, it creates, air bubbles, and they stick together sometimes.
Thank you, Mr. Stedman. Any new business to be brought up? Any new applications? Any public comment?
Can I make a public comment?
Sure.
Just if anybody wishes to, here's a copy of the program for the Western Middle Fleet on Saturday.
There you go, Kim.
And thanks to Jeff for doing that, designing these for everyone. It's a nice handout.
So I didn't go to the safety room because on Thursday morning my computer didn't start up and the print shop was waiting for it, so I had to.
What is the association that organizes this? Because it's not us, right?
No, it's since I've done this, Tim Russell, had Harris before him, a bunch of volunteers from the agency, calls a meeting of me, the police, the fire, the church groups, and the yacht club, and it just seems to happen. It's always happened.
The commission has always been listed as a sponsor, one of the sponsors, one of the many sponsors.
Yeah.
I can't quite read the name of the person who I think made the drawing. Who was that?
Gerard
Huerta.
On the back.
Thank you.
He's done the drawing every year.
And you can tell the trivia about the drawing too.
What's that?
Trivia about the drawing.
Yeah, I have some posters in my garage.
Right, it changes it every year or something.
I have to look and see what the change is.
I was told it looks the same every year, but it's not. He does some subtle change to it, yeah. Pat Carroll told me that. He said, you have to look it up.
I always thought it was the same one.
Pat told me there's something different. It might be the music symbol or something different that he tweaks slightly that you have to.
A little Easter egg.
Nice.
I have 3 of them in my garage.
You have to go look and see if you can find what the difference is.
And I might also mention that we learned beforehand that the Sasquatch Association has merged with the Southport Conservancy into one entity. And we had a nice discussion with them at the Southport School, where there was 2 people there beforehand, and they're quite interested with the report or paper that Aidan Carroll and I, or Aidan McLaughlin and I are working on about the history of Southport Harbor and the Army Corps of Engineers. And so we're going to, actually I haven't done it, they gave me the name of the person at the Pequot Library to share what we've already put together and also talk about some images that we can include in the report.
Yeah, the other one you might want to reach out to, I was just at the museum, Fairfield Museum,
Yes.
and they have a picture I never saw before. It's in the back when you go in the library on the wall, and it's Southport Harbor, and it looks at, like the yacht club buildings, and if you walk to a different angle, you could see what it used to look like. It's an old image of the harbor before the development. See, I don't know it must have, I don't know, kind of art.
One of those prism things.
It's a prism thing, yeah, where you look at two angles, and it's very cool. So, and he said they have some old pictures of the harbor there.
Focus on that, so I have to make sure that the citations are included, from the Fairfield Museum and the Pequot Library.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Don. And we are adjourned.